Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Under Review with Jared John. Each episode will analyze the impact the sports world has on society, such as gender equality, race, economy, history, and much more. So step up to the plate and come listen in. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Under Review. My name is Jared John, and today I have not one, but two guests with me today. Sitting to my right is Chris McGovern, and across from me is Shane Reed. Guys, how are we doing today?
What's up? Glad to be back on.
Good. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Chris, you already know the deal. You came on my first ever episode of Under Review. I thought I'd bring you back because you had some good insights. And Shane has been just begging me to be on the show.
Please, so be on Under Review, please.
So today we're going to talk about basketball today, and kind of basketball, football, and any other sport that comes to mind in terms of are athletes actually a good role model for the young generation, for kids, looking up to them. One thing I wanted to point out was earlier in the week, we're going to talk about the Golden State Warriors. And there was a questionable call at the end of the Warriors versus the Minnesota game where Kevin Durant was fouled, but it looked like he was in a shooting motion, and it looked like he should have gotten a 4-point play. In actuality, the play was dead. The refs blew the whistle. Golden State Warrior, the bench, Steve Kerr, everybody was very upset. The game resumed, and it was like about a second left, and Steph Curry shot a tough three-pointer, and as he shot the ball, it went through. The Minnesota Timberwolves called a timeout, and you could see, if you want to look at the clip, be my guest, it's probably on YouTube, and you could see Steph Curry kind of like mocking the ref as he's like running back or walking back, and he's pointing at the ref. My first instinct is, congratulations, that was a tough three, but that was to tie the game. That wasn't even to win. And he starts pointing at the ref and mocking him and kind of dancing around him. What do you guys think that was appropriate for him to do? Shane, I'll go to you first. Do you think that was appropriate for him to do, or do you think, just let him be, or because it was a close game?
I would bet if Steph looks back on that play now, he would think that it was not appropriate. But at the time, it's during the game. The dying seconds of the game. You hit a three. It's all these emotions up. You're really high on the game right now, and that's all you're thinking about. And you saw the play right beforehand with Kevin Durant. Honestly, when I watched the play too, the referee should have blown the whistle sooner on Kevin Durant, because it made it seem like he waited a little bit too long, because he did foul him.
Yeah.
But the referee kind of waited a little bit. I understand Steph's emotions, and you're in the game. He's a big competitor. They're all huge competitors, the Golden State Warriors, obviously. So I kind of understand where he's coming from. I think he needs to learn to maybe chill out a little bit on the situation with the refs, because you kind of have to be on their good side too, because then they will call you on things, But I understand where Steph's coming from, so it's a tough call. But I wouldn't really blame Steph for his actions that much,
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely in the NBA, throughout history, there's certain players that can get away with certain things. It's all based off your reputation. Steph is a guy that everybody seems to like, the referees seem to get along with. He doesn't get technicals all the time. And then there's other players, like even his own teammate Draymond Green, who's had problems with other players in the league, refs, and that. So if Draymond were to do it, people would be quicker to jump down his throat. If Steph were to do it, people might laugh at it. In last night's Spurs game, Greg Popovich got tossed out 90 seconds into the game, and then he crashed a press conference for the other team's coach after the game was over and was joking around. Other coaches, people would be like, oh, he shouldn't be doing that. But since it was Pop, it was fine. And since it was Steph, it was fine.
Yeah, I think it was rare to kind of see stuff like that, but he has made a three-pointer and shimmied, and I remember in high school, a friend of mine, he kind of coaches young kids, and he said you could kind of see how the basketball is getting to this young generation, because one of my kids shot a three-pointer, made it, and kind of shimmied down the court in another way, trying to replicate his idol. As a young fan probably watching what Steph did, do you think it'll be a negative impact of what happened in that scenario to a young generation, or do you think the young generation might know maybe not to do that, maybe it was a step too far?
I think if Steph makes it a game occurrence, keeps happening over and over again where he's pointing at the referee after he makes a three, that could be a huge issue because these kids look up to these players. Whoever's on the top, it's who they're trying to emulate. All these kids, little kids, are trying to shoot threes now. They're going crazy, trying to be like Steph, like you said, shimmying down the court and everything like that. I hope he just makes it, he comes out and says, like, that's not what you should do, or he just doesn't do that constantly again, because that could be it would show a really bad light on the sport for kids of what they should do and how they should handle situations.
Yeah, kind of like a bad habit, like if he keeps going with it.
Exactly.
But also, if they lost the game and there was a bunch of foul trouble and technical fouls called, but if they won the game and no one called the tech and the announcers and the refs just laughed about it, then you could be saying, oh, like Steph is such like a funny guy, and then the kids doing it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But since it sort of, in a way, cost his team the game, then you can look at it in a bad way. But it's like me, like I played sports my whole life, and especially baseball. Like you grow up and you watch like a Yankee Red Sox game where someone charges the mound. In my 10 plus years of playing baseball, there was only one game that I was ever in where someone charged the mound. So like it's not like people know, like kids are smarter than people think, and they're not going to copy the negative behavior majority of the time. I think.
I think that's true as well. I agree with you, Shane. If it does become a habit, then maybe it might connect with a younger generation, and you might see them do that. I consider the Golden State Warriors kind of like the most talented but not well-behaved team, if that makes sense, because you have a center in DeMarcus Cousins who's known for like getting a lot of technicals, and then you match that up with another player with Draymond Green, and he knows it. He gets a lot of technicals as well, and now you have Kevin Durant, who is currently a technical away from being suspended for a game. On, I believe it was Wednesday night that they played the Denver Nuggets, and Golden State, they were up by 20, and it kind of looked like they were running away with the game. And Kevin Durant thought he got fouled, and then he got a technical for it, and then he kept drawing back at the ref, and he called him words I probably should not say and should never say, but he called them very explicit words, if you could agree with me on that one. So seeing that, and then he resulted in another technical, and then he got tossed out of the game. One, I think it's, if the basketball players don't like it when fans call them certain names, I don't think it gives it a right for an NBA basketball player to say it to another grown person or another adult. And then I think it gives even more of a negative impact towards, like I said, the young generation, because most of the people that look up to athletes are kind of the younger side, like the teens and below. When you're adult, you're on your own. However, in sports, a lot of young generation looks towards them, or the young kids. So how do you think Durant, in his altercation with the ref, how do you think that impacted the society?
I don't know. It's kind of tough that when you're a high-level athlete, they really do expect you to be a role model as well. A lot of kids do look up to Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and all these guys. It's kind of a tough thing you have to put on. Some people aren't meant for that. I mean, his play style and his hard work and everything is really good to look up to, but I just think kind of like the Steph Curry situation, you can't always be yelling at the referees. They should know that that's not the way to solve situations. And if anything, it'll make you a player that referees want to call technicals on. Or you really do get a reputation in any sport, NHL, NBA. If you're that reputation type of player, then they're going to call you almost every time. So I think he should try to maybe change his style a little bit with yelling at refs and stuff like that. I don't know how much it affects the society, like we were talking about before, if coaches are really telling their kids to not be doing these things, like really getting it into their heads that the NBA players are doing it, but you as a kid shouldn't be doing this stuff.
Yeah.
It hopefully is not really affecting society, and society, by society I mean kids who are growing up and playing the game.
I just think, Chris, before I let you go, respect others the same way you want to be respected. So if a fan yells, I mean, we've seen it with Russell Westbrook, how a fan yelled very inappropriate stuff at him and, racial slurs, and that fan got very hated for it, and now I'm pretty sure he's like, can never go back to that arena.
He's banned for life.
Exactly. So if the basketball players don't like it when the fans either curse at them or say stuff at the specific player, then why should the player be allowed to say it at the ref?
Well, I mean, they're not allowed. It's just some refs are a little bit more lenient than others. It's obviously like against the rules because you can get a technical for it. But some refs let it go on longer. Some refs have a shorter fuse. And it's all depending on the player too, I think. But my big thing is like with basketball players and athletes in general. Like back in the day, Charles Barkley, there was a whole commercial where he said, "I'm not a role model."
Yeah.
And like that was like a huge deal. And to me, when you look at it, they work for a company. These guys are paid to be entertainers at the end of the day, and people are gonna look up to them. And I've always said that like they should take into consideration that like they're playing for the fans and they're hired to do this job. And if they don't like if they don't like the rules and there's no way for them to change it, then like no one forced them to take this job. If they didn't want it, and also they don't have to be role models if they don't want to either. Like if I work at Walmart, do I have to
Yeah.
teach some kids some like good values? No, I mean it's the same thing. It's their job, and if they want to just go about it how they want to, and they're not getting fined, and they're making their money and whatever, they shouldn't have to worry about like that. I mean, if you're a good person, you worry about impacting the kids and stuff, but it's whatever.
I just feel like basketball players and other athletes as well should take into consideration. So when, say, LeBron James or Kevin Durant sits out for a game, usually the people that are upset are the young kids. I mean, yeah, the parents are upset because they're like, oh, I brought my young child to see his idol play, and they're not playing. So you have to know that clearly there's always going to be someone watching your actions. I mean, it's unfortunate. You can't be perfect every time like Steph Curry. And it was rare to see Steph Curry. Yeah, he's always dancing because, of the tough shots he hits and the game winners he's hit. But it was kind of weird to see that reaction from him, like physically pointing at a ref. And Kevin Durant, I feel like, is just around a bad crowd because he never used to get that many technicals while his time at Oklahoma City, and now when he went to Golden State, my dad always told me your friends are going to influence you. So he's around Draymond Green, and Draymond Green is kind of known to be the emotional leader of the Golden State Warriors, and it kind of like went to Kevin Durant, and now you have DeMarcus Cousins, who's always known for getting technical fouls. So I just think, one, your surroundings may influence you, and two, there's always going to be somebody watching you.
And even Steve Kerr, I may be wrong, but I think he has the most technicals of any coach.
Oh, yes.
So
it's either him or Greg Popovich.
So yeah, I mean, he gets into it too, and they're grown men, but if you see your coach doing it, and nothing's happening to him, then what's stopping them from doing it? And I know that Steph is somebody who's seen as more of a family man than Durant or Draymond, and I'm sure he went home to his kids and was like, listen, like you said, he would be more apologetic.
Yeah.
Draymond Green's gonna just in a press conference is gonna be like, yeah, so whatever, what I'm saying, I did that, cool.
But back to that Steve Kerr thing. So here's another question: does winning solve everything? Does winning make it better to know that if you're someone who is aspiring to be an athlete, yes, you could get away with stuff as long as you win. So like Steve Kerr, we've seen him break clipboards. We've seen him literally go off on referees. The same thing with Greg Popovich. But yet those are probably two of the, top 20 coaches of all time for the NBA. So do you think winning can kind of make everything ease a little bit better? If a parent's watching the game, and their daughter or son is right next to them and they see the person going crazy, but yet they win the game or they get championships. Do you think that helps?
I think passion in sports is very important. Greg Popovich and Steve Kerr are obviously two very passionate coaches, and they really care about their team and their players, which is why they would freak out like that. And I understand, and there's different types of coaches too. There's more reserved guys that keep it for the locker room to really freak out at the players and stuff, but guys that can't hold it back like Greg Popovich or Steve Kerr, it's understandable. It's just the kind of people they are. It's the kind of coaches they are. The thing is, nobody really likes complainers, people that complain to referees and stuff like that. And I don't know if Greg Popovich I mean, he does like yell at the referees and everything like that, and so does Steve Kerr. But I don't know. I think it depends what it is. If they're always constantly complaining, if it's a coach that's constantly complaining to the referees for every single thing, I don't think that's good. I think it's important to have passionate coaches, in the NBA and in all leagues. So even the younger kids too, if the coaches are passionate, they're yelling and they're trying to get into it. Obviously, there's a line that can be crossed. But I do understand why they are there, and coaches like that will always be there.
Just to switch sports really quickly, and this will be our last topic for this episode. Kareem Hunt is another person that comes into the role model discussion. So if you guys don't know, Kareem Hunt in 2017 was selected third round in the 2017 draft by the Chiefs. He kind of had a breakout year in his rookie year, and he's top 5 running back. Would you guys agree right now in the NFL? Top 5, top 10 for sure.
Yeah, I would say 7 or 8 to be fair.
He's a top tier running back.
All right.
Top tier running back.
So in February 10th of 2018, an incident happened outside of Hunt's hotel apartment. And then November 30 was kind of the date that Kareem Hunt wishes he could forget. So on November 30th, TMZ released the video of that incident, and it showed him shoving a woman and kicking her. And that same day, he was released by the Chiefs. December 2nd, he apologized for his actions on ESPN. And February 11th, he got picked up by the Browns, and he received an 8-game suspension. So I'm going to start off with Shane first because, Chris, you may not know this, but Shane is on the bandwagon for Browns fan.
A Browns bandwagon?
Yeah, but the difference is I jumped on like 2 years ago when they were the absolute worst.
Okay.
Okay. I like rooting for the teams that are okay, but I like rooting for teams that are terrible.
Sean,
you can look at my tweets. Nobody looks at my tweets, but I'm just saying.
Shane is a psychic. He saw it coming. So the question remains: 1, does being talented or does winning help everything? And 2, how do you think Kareem Hunt, from the people that may look up to him, how do you think it has affected them?
I think that people that look up to football players, it's kind of hard. If you're taking a beast of an athlete, which all NFL players are, they're like 6 foot, 275, 300-pound guys that are constantly hitting each other in the head with their helmets in practice every single day, and you're looking to them as a role model, it's kind of tough. They aren't like the normal human being, and not everybody's going to be like J.J. Watt. Not everybody's going to be a great role model like that. So it's kind of hard to look to NFL players as role models because they are different than everybody else, I think that him being a top-end player is a reason why a team would still pick him up. Ray Rice was towards the end of his career. We were kind of talking before the podcast. He was towards the end of his career when his whole huge thing happened. And obviously the video, they both had videos released, and his video was a lot more, I guess you could say, like graphic. He actually knocked out the woman.
And then he dragged her out of the elevator. Yes.
Not that the other one with Kareem Hunt was also, he was very physical with the woman too. Ray Rice physically just knocked her out. So that was crazy. But, I mean, being a top-end player, kind of, you talked about this on a previous podcast, but Colin Kaepernick, it's what the team wants to take on as PR troubles. If the player's not producing as much as like a high-end player would, like Kareem Hunt at this point of his career can do, then the team would be willing to take on a player like that and deal with the issues from the media and from society and stuff like that. So it is honestly where he is at his career. If it was towards the end of his career, if he was in his 30s, I don't think any team would like really risk signing him. But just where he is right now in his career, that's what's going to happen.
Well, and I think that, it all has to do with winning and how good you are, because you see guys like Kareem Hunt, who is one of the best in the league right now. And then you see also like Adrian Peterson, he got a full year suspension for what had happened to him a couple of years ago. And the Vikings could have easily released him, but they didn't, because he's the best.
Yeah.
So if you're good, then you get a second chance. But if you're not, then sorry. I mean, and it sucks, and I think it's true, and it's a terrible thing to say, but like, for Chiefs fans, I feel like they'll see like, oh man, like we lost Kareem Hunt, and they'll think about it more of like, oh man, like my favorite team lost a really good player, as opposed to like, wow, like Kareem Hunt's a scumbag.
Yeah.
And like that's sad to say, but I think it's true.
Yeah.
I think there are certain role models that fans should look up to, like kind of like the really good, the do-gooders, kind of like, you know, LeBron James, how he created a school, you know, or Derek Jeter, who you never heard his name in the paper, or Mike
Michael
Trout, if
Jordan.
anything bad, or Michael Jordan as well.
Continue.
So, but then there are certain players that you may come out to question, and it just looks like winning kind of helps everything. But you have to believe, yes, there are good role models in every world, every scenario, any profession, actress, actor, you know, there are good role models, and then there are bad ones that, you know, you kind of, the parents tell them, don't look at that. You know, you want to look more towards that.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we can have Shane on the next time when the Browns win. Win the Super Bowl. Maybe it's this year, but I can't tell you guys thank you enough for joining this podcast and coming on for episode 3. I really had a lot of fun today, and thank you for listening to Under Review.
Peace.